Well, a happy Friday to you. And thank you so much for hanging out with me throughout this whole week. I have been putting together a series of stories and also Facebook Lives called Living Through COVID-19. And today I am turning to Corona, that is, Corona lessons that I have learned during this week, because this very strange wave of calm is really filling me in this moment. And I actually know it's not going to last, the calm that is. So I wanted to share with you how I arrived at this place of feeling just a little bit more grounded. And the real reason I do that is so that when another wave does hit me, which it will, and I'm certain it will, I might be able to remind myself of how I actually got to this place. So strangely enough, Corona lessons are what are really impacting me this week. And the first thing that I have been working on as I'm learning through this virus and this crisis of how to function and how to thrive is to re-examine the stress that is in my life. You know, changes are happening so fast that we did not invite. Not one of us invited this virus into our lives to do what it's doing to us right now, and how we're responding, how we're reacting. So I made a decision early on to say, what if I decided to make a list of everything that is causing me stress right now, every single thing that is bugging me in terms of how I'm going to deal with my stress as it pertains to Corona lessons. So I made a list of all the things that are stressing me out. And one of the first things would be being forced to stay in your home. That really drives some people crazy, as it probably could and should, because we're not used to it. Fear of COVID-19, that brings a lot of stress. There's no question about that. Worry about losing income, if that's what's happening to you right now and you are worried about what's happening to your job and where you can go next. Politics in general. Every single time I observe anything that's going on in the news, it really can have a tendency to stress me out. Not being able to work out in the way I like, not being able to get on a bike and not be afraid, all of those kinds of things. Maybe your internet connection is unstable and that really bothers you. All of these things that are coming up on that list are really troubling to you because they stress you out, and what do you do with it? Well, what I've started to do as I've made that list for myself is determine what is and what isn't in my control. Is there anything I can do about any of those things on there that I might have just a little bit of control over? And then create a plan that will allow me to change up some things in my own life so that I can do things in a different way. You know, when I make a decision to identify what I can control and release what is out of my control, there's a chance that I can reduce some of that anxiety. And that is what I'm learning as I'm dealing with and reframing some of my stress. The next thing I do is follow a new routine. You know, prior to the month of March, I didn't really think about my routine. I have a routine. My dogs don't even see anything different in our morning routine. I have something I do on a regular basis, and maybe you do as well. Or maybe you just always flew by the seat of your pants. Lucky you. But nowadays, it feels like when I don't know exactly what I'm going to do, I feel like I don't get enough done or I don't get anything done. So because the pattern of our days have been altered so much, just you, may be the only constant in your day. And what I mean by that is your work may be gone, or it's all online and you're not used to that. You're not comfortable with it. You don't really want to do that. Your kids are home and they are causing incidents in your life that you never anticipated, and you're having to work around them, work with them, encourage them in ways that you haven't had to do for a very long time or may never have had to do. You can't see the people you care about for a variety of reasons. Your exercise routine has been altered. So if you have a routine, all of the things that you had been doing in the past may no longer apply. And if you didn't have a routine, I'm suggesting that maybe this would be a really good time to start. You know, how about setting the alarm for tomorrow morning, even if it's for 10 o'clock, to know that you have something you're going to be doing, and then adding a couple of items to a calendar list that might be super helpful. And when you finish a couple of those items, maybe adding something else, what's really important on there. Feel free to do that. And Faith, by the way, thank you so much. My unbelievable colleague on More to Life with Faith and Lois, joining us on this Facebook Live. And we had a really fun session yesterday as well online, and we will continue to offer these things and make them more of a routine in our lives. You know, a friend of mine in Bosnia, where the the structure for them is defined even more tightly than it is for any of us here in the United States, thus far anyhow, has described to me how without a routine, she doesn't know how she would make it through her day because she was going crazy. So she set up certain things and benchmarks that she would do, and as she accomplishes them, she then feels like the day isn't just slipping through her hands, because sometimes we're wondering, what are we accomplishing during this time of stay in place? It is extremely challenging. The third thing I'm learning through this coronavirus era that we are in is people really are who they are. And if I didn't believe that before, I'm just learning it so well, and it's extremely freeing. You've probably heard the quote by Maya Angelou, and it is, when people show you who they are, believe them the first time. You know, Maya Angelou was able to say this and embrace it and live by it much sooner than I ever was. And when I say this out loud, I actually give permission to say some crazy things they're saying, to live in the way they're living, and to act crazy. And the reason I say this is because I think we're all on edge right now. So even more so when it comes to the political arena, or how people are, we're getting judged for how we are living in this new era in our homes or going out, and what are you doing and how are you doing it? I am getting more to the point of just saying, that's who you are, and leaving who someone is where they are. That's very different for many people. And when we can get to that place of stopping, and instead of judging what people are doing, to be able to just accept that that's who they are, that's where they are, maybe then we can even be stuck in the same house, in four walls, where we feel sometimes like things are, coming in around us because we don't necessarily agree with everything somebody is doing. I would make some tea because it is helpful, but I've learned that people really are who they say they are. And the final thing that I've learned is that it really is good to love on your friends and family. That really has been the best part of my week. It was a decision that I made early on. I am emailing and calling and FaceTiming and Zooming much more than ever. And it's not that I didn't have these friends before, I didn't have these family members before, but I'm realizing I really want to connect. There's something in this era right now, in this time, that I'm saying, I want to reach out to you. And initially I was waiting for people to reach out to me. But this week I turned the tables and I started reaching out with all of those efforts that I mentioned before. And you know what happened? I started to get loved on by these same people, and by different people, and by new people. So maybe adding to your routine how to care for people in your arena might make a huge change in your life. I'm hoping that as we get through this coronavirus era, and I'm hoping that it is a season in front of us, that maybe the relationships we have will even be stronger than they were before. So I lift you up and say, may you enter this weekend stronger than you started this week. And if not, you can try again tomorrow. It's really okay. Please know that I am here for you, and reach out if you want to talk. A virtual hug to you. These are some lessons that I'm learning. Have a great afternoon.